What's going on, guys? And today I'm doing an NBA season preview video, and this is the Eastern Conference and basically the standings and some other notes about it. I'll be making one for the Western Conference pretty soon, but let's start off with the East, as I feel like it's the more interesting in some aspects in terms of more of a mix-up around the middle. But overall, it's the worst conference, and maybe it gets you waiting for the West a little bit longer. First, I have the Cavs finishing the first place. The Cavs are the best team. Yes, they don't have J.R. Smith re-signed, but that's not going to make or break them. So, quite honestly, I feel they were the best team, and they still have been the best team. As long as LeBron is there, they will do perfectly fine. Number 2 is when it gets a little bit more tricky, as I feel like the next two teams who are the next best are the Celtics and the Raptors, but I gotta put the Celtics a little bit in front of the Raptors. The Celtics did improve in the offseason, picking up Jaylen Brown and Al Horford, and while Jaylen Brown might not contribute to that many more wins, Al Horford definitely will. Now, I do like the Celtics. I am a Celtics fan, so I might be a little biased in this, and I'm not a Raptors fan, which might put a little bias, but many people do seem to agree with me. And I just think the fact of Kyle Lowry is getting older. I believe he's 31 now, so he's probably a little bit past his prime. And then throw in the fact that DeMar DeRozan just got his huge contract, and usually players don't perform as well comparing a contract year to a post-contract year. I'm not hating on them as much as I did last year, but I don't think they will be quite as good, as they did lose some noticeable pieces in the offseason. And they did improve in in terms of getting Jared Sullinger from the Celtics pretty much in free agency, but they did lose Luis Scola, who I can think of right off the top of my head, as well as Bismack Biyombo. So their front court is a little weaker this year. Alright, so that's my top 3. And number 4 is the Pacers. I feel like the Pacers had a fantastic offseason, even though it doesn't make too much sense with the coaching change where Larry Bird wanted to make it an up-tempo team, so they hired Nate McMillan, which is kind of contradictory. Then they go on and sign guys like Al Jefferson. It doesn't make too much sense, but no matter what, I feel like the talent in this team is too good to be a bad team. Some people don't think they'll be that great, but I mean, Paul George, I feel like a healthy Paul George guarantees you probably like at least a 7 seed, and then you throw in a lot of the guys that picked up a Jeff Teague when healthy, because last year he claimed he was injured for most of the year, can be a true X factor. Monte Ellis isn't as good as he used to be, but he can be a serviceable 6-man / backup guard, and I think he'll be the starting shooting guard, but in time, he will eventually lose that job to maybe one of their younger guys, or give it to a guy like Ronnie Stuckey or CJ Miles, who at least can space the floor. And then also throw in Thaddeus Young, one of the most versatile and overlooked big men in the game / forwards. I think he'll do very well. And then you have Miles Turner stepping up this year. I think he'll be one of the better players or most improved. I think they are guaranteed to get at least a top 6 seed, but I'm putting them at 4. Alright, number 5, the Hawks. The Hawks had a weird offseason, losing 2 big pieces in Al Horford and Jeff Teague. However, I still feel like that their core is good enough that with Dennis Schroeder, even though I'm not a huge fan of him, to throw in guys like Kent Bazemore and Paul Millsap, and then Dwight Howard, who I am kind of a fan of, I think that they'll do pretty solid. I do think there is a chance for them to kind of slip, though, as a lot of their guys that you expect them to do well are getting older. For instance, Kyle Korver. I believe Korver is 36 or 37 years old now, and even though he's a shooter and his game will probably live on until he's maybe in his early 40s, I think you're going to see a lot of slippage with him, and he won't be as effective as he once was about 2 years ago when he was an all-star. Regardless, I still think he'll be a pretty successful player. Alright, number 6, I have the Pistons. Now, this is when it gets tricky. About anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 10 are teams that I think that can make the playoffs, but I feel like the Pistons will make it. Throw in an improving and young Andre Drummond, as well as many other pieces around him that will succeed in terms of Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris and even Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and I think they'll do pretty well. Yes, Reggie Jackson is out for I believe 2 months. I don't really remember what type of injury it was, but he is out for a little bit, so that will hurt their wins total. But no matter what, I still feel like they are better this season. Stan Van Gundy is really building a solid team, just like he did in his Orlando days with Dwight Howard. And I think Ish Smith can be a starter, not a great starter, but he can be serviceable enough to be 70 or 65 to 70% of what Reggie Jackson can give. Not great, but I think otherwise they're going to have to mortgage their future for just a little bit more success this year. And I think even without Reggie Jackson for, I don't know, a month or two, they'll be fine enough to make the playoffs and stay in the 6th seed. Alright, number 7 is the Hornets. I'd have the Hornets higher, but they lost a decent amount of pieces this offseason in terms of Jeremy Lin and Allen Jefferson that I can't have them much higher. They finished around the same seeding last year. However, losing Jeremy Lin, I feel like, is the bigger issue, as he was a really good backup guard in the NBA, and by losing him, they don't have as much guard depth. Yes, they did add Ramon Sessions, who I think is a okay backup guard, nothing special, but just decent. And Allen Jefferson, even though it's kind of a big loss, it's not that huge. Allen Jefferson had probably his best year 3 years ago for the then Bobcats under Steve Clifford, and I just feel like, yes, he's valuable to them, but they have enough young guys coming up that can take his minutes, and it won't be that much of a drop-off in terms of Frank Kaminsky, Cody Zeller, and some older guys such as like Spencer Hawes, and Marvin Williams can definitely shoulder the load. Now, there is some concern where maybe there'll be regressions by players such as Nick Batum and Marvin Williams, as they both got big contracts this offseason, that they might not perform as well, but I still think that that team is good enough skill-wise, continuity-wise, and coaching to do well enough to make the playoffs and be a borderline 7-8 seed, or be a 7-8 seed, like borderline playoffs. And gotta throw in the Kemba love, so of course I have them in the playoffs. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. The 8th seed, I put in the Wizards. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Wizards just because I don't like Bradley Beal due to his many injuries. I just feel like he is constantly overrated. But that's just my personal opinion. But I do absolutely love John Wall. I feel like John Wall is an absolute animal. And other pieces on the team fit pretty well, such as Markieff Morris, and I do like Marcin Gortat quite a bit. They did pick up, I believe it was Jan Mahimny in the offseason, who was a solid pickup for them, as well as some other guys will do pretty well this year in terms of Otto Porter, as well as Kelly Oubre. I feel like they have good enough pieces to make the playoffs, and they did pretty recently, 2 years ago. And yes, they did have Paul Pierce at the time, who was a playoffs legend for them. But I feel like a healthy John Wall, even though he is going to be out for a little bit, I think they're good enough. And this is where the East gets really funky, so I had to throw them in the 8th seed. Now, number 9 is the Bulls. Now, the Bulls are a team that, if this was all the players in their prime, I would definitely put them probably top 2 in the East in terms of who is going to win the title. Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, and Rajon Rondo are 3 of the biggest names in terms of guards in the Eastern Conference. However, I don't know how this will really fit. Their best shooter, I feel like, is Mirotic, and then their next best, well, Doug McDermott too. But those are their 2 best shooters, and I don't see a lot of minutes for either of them in the starting lineup. And I don't know how effective either will really be this season. So that's the real question and the reason why I have him so low. And throwing the fact that Dwayne Wade, usually, if he doesn't get injured, he'd need some maintenance. And then Jimmy Butler's fine, but Rajon Rondo has been having a lot of issues recently with coaches not giving him enough leeway. And there has been enough issues with Fred Hoiberg to throw up some question marks. Bulls, I'm not going to hate on the Bulls. I definitely think that they can make the playoffs just based off of skill alone. I just felt like this offseason was exactly what a guy in 2K would do. Even me, we're just like, hey, I can pick up Rondo for this much money. Hey, why not do it? Hey, I can pick up Dwayne Wade for this much money. Why not do it? Hey, I can trade away an injury-plagued guy and pick up a good center in return. Why not do it? So I feel like that's what they did. And it doesn't fit the best, but I feel like there's enough pieces there to win enough games and possibly scrape the playoffs. Now, number 10, I have the Bucks. If Chris Middleton did not get injured, there's no doubt in my mind that I'd have this team in the playoffs. Many of their young core are already successful players in terms of Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Jabari Parker are at least relatively successful. And I think the leap that Giannis will make this year, I don't think he'll win Most Improved Player, but he'll be in the conversation. I feel like he'll be an absolute beast. Should push them right into the playoffs. However, Chris Middleton got hurt, and I had to put him down a few spots. I know Middleton isn't really a superstar, but the thing is, he is their only shooter in their starting lineup and probably the best shooter on their team. Yesterday, Mirza Teletovic as well as Matthew Dellavedova, who are very good shooters, but I don't think there's much better, and this will cause them to slip quite a bit. So this is a sad year for the Bucks. However, I feel like once Middleton gets healthy, this will be a pretty scary team to go up against, especially to make some trades to get rid of Greg Monroe and Michael Carter-Williams. I do like Michael Carter-Williams, but I just don't feel like he fits well at all on this team. Alright, going on to number 11, the Knicks. Now, a lot of Knicks fans are probably going to hate me for having them this low, but I just feel like there are way too many question marks for this team to be in my top 8. Yes, they can make the playoffs if everything goes well, but I feel like there's a higher chance that things will go wrong than go right. Now, many reasons why. Derrick Rose, the point guard, of course, is not great. Of course, the rape accusations right now are not great for him. So that could be a mental burden on him, as well as if he actually gets convicted, or actually, I don't even think it's like a criminal trial right now. I think it's a civil lawsuit. So this could definitely weigh on him, and I don't know what the NBA is going to do about it. I don't know if they'll suspend him. Probably not, but I think there's way too many questions about this. And then throw in the fact that is past injury problems, and then now he's in a new city, maybe he wants to show out, and that could re-aggravate his knee. Could be an issue. Courtney Lee is a fine player at the 2 guard, but it's nothing special. Now at 3, Melo, this is a really troubling fact where Derrick Rose played more games in the past 2 seasons than Carmelo Anthony, and Derrick Rose is not known for being a guy who will stay on the team and play every game, an Iron Man like AC Green, so that's very disheartening. Kristaps, I think, will do incredibly well this year. I feel like he'll flourish and be an all-star starter, so that's definitely the bright spot of the Knicks season. And I think the reason why he'll be a starter, just a little preview when I mention my all-stars in a different video. 1 is because of the fact that he is an extremely popular player in New York, and 2, the Latvian vote. And I just feel like he will definitely become a starter one way or another on the All-Star game, either this year or next year. And finally, Joakim Noah, he's already having injury issues in the preseason, and I know you can't buy a lot into the preseason, but if you're having injury issues in the preseason, the regular season's not looking too good. Their bench outside of Kyle O'Quinn and Brandon Jennings is absolutely atrocious, and I just feel like there's way too many issues for them to be successful, especially because many of them have previous injury history. So let's go on to number 12, the Orlando Magic. Now, the Magic just seems like people who do those videos on YouTube where they just accept every trade on 2K and just end up with this team where they gave away so many young pieces, and Sabonis, well, the draft rights to Sabonis, Ilyasova, and Oladipo for Serge Ibaka, which maybe that's a good fit right next to Vucevic, but Vucevic isn't really the guy you want to build your entire franchise around. Well, I feel like Oladipo, we don't know yet, but he's young enough that you can experiment with that. Then throw in some other stuff like the Jeff Green signing, the Biyombo signing, and just a lot of players don't seem to fit too well on that team. And I feel like it's going to be weird, more weird than anything. Of course, some bright spots in Aaron Gordon and Mario Hezonja might be pretty nice, but besides that, I don't think this Magic team will be that good. Now, at 13 are the Miami Heat. Now, this is a huge, huge fall from grace for what they would have been probably 3 months ago. I would have definitely had them in the top 5 because of Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, but now both of those guys are gone. Dwayne Wade because he left for Chicago, and Chris Bosh because basically the Heat kicked him, not even kicked him off the team, but acknowledged that he won't even play for them due to his injuries or his medical problems, which is very sad. So I hope Chris Bosh does get better. And in my personal opinion, I think he should sit out because, yes, you might love basketball, but there's a high chance of him dying, and I just feel like it's not really worth it to leave his family behind just because you want to play some basketball. I sound like a really douchey, middle class white dad right now, but I gotta just say that just because of the fact that the thing is, you have a high chance of dying. Unless you get 100% cleared, it's not really worth it. You made enough money that you're not struggling. And if you truly love basketball, then he can definitely go into an advisor role on any team. Any team would love to have him on their team to help him out. And if he wants to still play, I mean, you're going to probably not be able to play in the NBA, but this has been a long enough rant, but you're kind of getting my gist. Now, this team is really troubling because 2 of their projected stars for this year, in Josh Richardson and Josh McRoberts, are hurt. So they're going to have to start guys in Dion Waiters and maybe, I don't even know who's going to start at the 4, Derek Williams, or possibly even Johnson. Oh, what's his name? God damn it. How can I not remember his name? The guy who played for the Raptors recently. I'll look him up in the meantime, but I feel like there's so many issues that that will plague this team that they just won't be successful enough and will fall to this seed. Now, at the 14th seed, I have the Nets. The Nets are this low because I just feel like their team isn't good. Of course, there are some bright spots in Jeremy Lin and Brook Lopez, and I gotta say, Jeremy Lin is way too, or not good enough to be a bright spot on a team. I feel like he's best being a 6th man or a borderline starting guard. But him being kind of your face of your franchise next to Brook Lopez, that's not looking too good. That's what I gotta say. Now, for the 76ers, I gotta say, yes, I would have had them higher if Ben Simmons got hurt, but I don't think this will absolutely destroy their season in terms of wins. If anything, it'll destroy it in terms of morality, or not morality, morale, my bad. Now, the main reason I have to say this, oh, and I was talking about James Johnson earlier, my bad. The main reason I have to say this is because everyone's waiting for Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid got cleared, and everyone was so happy, as they should be. And now Ben Simmons is here where everyone's so happy, and then he gets hurt. This will kill the morality, but, I mean, comparing that to almost anything else, it's fine for this season, as the draft looks amazing, and if they still do terrible, they can pick up a really good guard. So, that's one bright spot in the future, but this will be a fun season to watch because of guys like Dario, Nerlens, Jaleel, and Embiid, seeing how they all fit together, as well as guys in Sergio Rodriguez and Robert Covington, seeing how they're going to play. I think this season could be pretty fun, but very unsuccessful. Anyways, guys, that's my preview for the Eastern Conference. Be ready to check out and definitely subscribe my Western Conference, because when you subscribe, you'll get the notification when I put my Western Conference on, which should be within a day or two. I just need to record it. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you watch this far. Comment down below anything you have to say about this video. Who you think would be better, worse, or any other surprises. So definitely subscribe and share. And thank you guys for watching. And of course, have a good day.